you're aware of the facts that, this subject matter, psychedelics, is definitely pretty much taboo in our community. It's a global, taboo to some degree based on the war and drugs and, and the knock-on effects of all of that there. But how do you see, with the decriminalization acts and all these things happening, and some people coining the current, climate that we're in as a psychedelic renaissance, the third wave, there's loads of documentaries being made and, books being published and Netflix specials, and psychedelics is a hot damn topic, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what's going on with that? What do you feel is going on with all of that? And at the same time, how do we make sure that we're a part of that, or we create, like you're saying, how do we establish that, knowing that fully well is pretty much taboo? There's like, it was Kilindi, me, you, and a handful of others around the world talking on this subject, and they're laughing at us anyway,
Yeah.
So how we, are we going to be taken seriously? How, why are we doing this, man? How are we going to make
Yeah. I think, and that's the part I reflect a lot on ritual, because, we can't afford to have the so-called Woodstock effect on our community, because they're going to take that and they're going to use that as a media hype to say, see, we told you so. And so how do we find that balance where we can make it open to community but not exploit it, but at the same time break the taboo? And the only way, man, I think is for folks like ourselves, man. The more we share with people and they're able to speak and it benefits them. I think like doing conferences and things. I don't know, I like the festival thing, but I don't know, what kind of stigma they may get. Because to our folks, we've been so burnt through the war on drugs that, it may cause people to turn even further away from the idea. You know what I'm saying?
I've definitely witnessed that. I've witnessed that.
Yeah, and then our people's aversion of things to concepts like voodoo or witchcraft. You know what I mean? So that's the $1 million question. We are people of the spirit, but how do we stop being afraid of ghosts?
Go and dance with them. And go and dance with them.
Yeah. We still, in a lot of regards, because we've been made spiritually immature through artificial systems of worship. We are like little kids, literally in the middle of the night, walking down the hallway to the bathroom. We are very spooked out and superstitious. And so the only thing we could do, man, is, one by one, and try our best not to sensationalize it or commoditize it, because that's what I'm seeing now. It's a commodity thing, and it's going to take off as a party thing. And like I already have folks over here who think, like one person I had experienced, he thought he was going to be like the next fucking John Gotti of Big Meat and Mushrooms or something. Like he was going to be out here, oh, I'm ahead of, it's like, you know what I'm saying? And so I don't know, man. Just one, creating ritual, man. I think like we do things like wonderful solstice ceremonies, that people look forward to, like every June 21st or something, and it's like family, friends, and it's fun, and we structure it in a way where it's spiritual, but it's not too rigid, and it's positive and informative. Things like that, I think I had the greatest impact. And then, and we have to do it because, as you see, media's catching on to it. It's becoming a more popular meme for a lot of popular cartoons and rappers and stuff. And so we have to really get out here, because if not, soon it's going to be like Xanny, or, you know what I'm saying, or any other substance that they syrup or any other thing they trying to pimp out here, and people are not going to take it seriously, even though all those things are just an attempt to recreate, none of those things can pale in a comparison. But, you let somebody say, oh, I took, a cap of stem and a shot of syrup, now they think, so, damn, I hope nobody heard that and tries to do it. But anyway. Yeah, just trying to keep that druggy thing out, man. And I think that's where the culture comes in, man. Like draping it in our traditional cultural expression, man. You know, because we know if we put it out into the mainstream culture, we know mainstream culture ain't nothing but druggy culture anyway, like hard druggy culture, you know.
Yeah.
So we have to like give it some cultural context, which is why we want to find a traditional name for it, which is why me and you and others don't want to be called shaman. You know what I'm saying? Which is why we have to think of authentic ritual for it. And well, that's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
No, I feel you on that, man. And just to piggyback off that, it's like, yeah, we're in that climate, man. You know, it's I believe, you know, when, as they say, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing that we need to force, you know. So as I call it, I just spread the spores. I use the metaphor of, you know, when in cultivation, you know, in organic cultivation, there's different seed sowing techniques. And I always make reference to, you know, you can, you know, sow your seeds, you know, in a trail. You can station sow, you know, dig a hole and put seeds each per hole, seeds in each hole. Or you can just grab a bag of seeds out of the bag and just throw them on the soil. And, you know, we call it, you know, broadcasting. And you know that some seeds may germinate that year, some the following year, and some may not germinate. You know what I mean? And, you know, that's how I really approach this. And I know there's some specifics, you know, required when it comes to some of the finer detail. But it's like, yeah, let's get it out there. And when the people respond in the appropriate way, you know that your message is being received, and we can build and take it to the next stage. So it goes from being a very taboo subject, you know, in my community, and it still is. But I can definitely say the more events I've held, you know, been involved in, I'm seeing who's in the audience. I can bear witness to the questions that are being asked by all people from all cultures. I can see who's being inspired and what it's inspiring them to do. So these were things that I was not seeing, you know, 7 years ago, so forth, when I first stepped on, you know, into the circuit. So
big ups to you, G, because I mean, I see you, man. You're out there and you're doing it, man, and you help strengthen me. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully we do the same for each other, man, because, you know, I say, damn, man, damn. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, let's get it, you know, because for a while I fell off, man, and you helped get me back in focus, man. So I definitely appreciate, you know what I'm saying, our friendship, man, and make this thing grow.
Most definitely, man. Again, I'm happy we connected and Baba brought us all together, man.
Yeah.
On that note of platforms, we share some platforms. We've been a few places. It could just come to mind, man. We was in Berlin together, man, at the Altered conference.
Yeah.
And I remember that, man, because, you know, I can't remember. Well, what I do remember is I went on and done my thing, and I had just kind of tweaked. You know, if you've seen me a few times, you'll see that my presentations are pretty much structured the same, and then I'll lead you somewhere else depending on the conclusion. So at Altered, you know, I felt like, man, I just delivered what I delivered. And then I think we had done Breaking Convention previously to that as well. And every time you came, though, you came firing, man. And I remember at that Altered conference, you know, your subject matter was to do with, you know, in particular, you know, psychedelics and, you know, the feminine power, the feminine archetype. And you killed it, bro. I just remember you killed it. I bared witness to that. And I also remember the energy and what you attracted after that, you know, as far as, you know, the people that you inspired there, man. So, just a little segue into, you know, what was you, if you remember and recall, not the details, but what you was covering in the role, because that had a lot to do with the rites and the, you know, the Asian approach to the usage of psychedelics. So could you share anything around that?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you know, and thanks again, man. You know, that was one of my top memories, man. I had a ball, but yeah, just from what, once again, some of Kilindi's teachings and what my father shared with me. Is traditionally, we always recognize women as the masters of the unseen, you know, whether we're talking about mom who hears you mumbling like 3 blocks away, you know what I'm saying? Or knows when you did something crazy. We've always recognized our women were the ones who tapped into the magic, you know, who would make 40 loaves out of 2 pieces of fish and all of that stuff going up. And so when I started this journey and when I went to the continent, one of the first things I realized is that, you know, the ladies were the responsible ones over all the herbs and the preparations and the understanding of the unseen forces. And so as I began to learn, I realized the role that women played in traditional warfare. One, it wouldn't be a war until they agreed on it anyway. And that came from them consulting those higher realms. And so they were the ones who blew the war horn and ended the war horn because they were intact with a higher sense of understanding. And so, you know, as men, we'll get in the fights and forget what the hell we fighting for. You know, it'd be a 30-year war. So it was always important for the women, one, to understand the reasoning of the war, and two, when it was the season of war should end. And then during war, it's always been their responsibility to prepare the young boys and men to engage in war, which is one, psychological, letting them know you have an unconditional love and support, but also spiritual, because as the ones who brought us into this world, to get endorsement as what's the proper way to lead this world will come from the women. You know what I'm saying? You know, the third part is after, or when on the field of warfare, in the field of battle, one of the biggest issues of any soldiers, up to this day, is that right before the battle starts, there's a certain number of men that run away. And so early on, they understood that you have to use certain plants. You basically have to get somebody high out their mind to fight war, because it's not natural. So the women, they figured out certain combinations, and they also figured out painkillers and medicines. Post-war, and unlike today, where we just take somebody's muddy boots and send them back to the classroom, you know, they actually take time to heal soldiers after war before they re-enter society. So they were responsible for that as well. So you wouldn't just leave Afghanistan and then come to the UK. No, you would spend a year or so healing. And most of this healing dealt with the PTSD through using these spirit plants and through using the feminine knowledge of healing. And so all throughout warfare, women were the integral parts of it. And only till recently had they been regulated to the sidelines, which is why you see savagery or wars that just go on perpetually and nobody knows why, or you know, militaries who don't realize that their soldiers need to be reconciled before they get sent home so they won't terrorize their neighborhoods, you know, or themselves. And so the absence of women from modern warfare is the reason it's as savage and as cowardice as it is, because women, as you know, in traditional societies were the brave ones. So they wouldn't tolerate you throwing a damn rock from a mile away. You know what I'm saying? They're like, if you brave, you'll go hit him in the face. What you mean you're going to stay across the river and throw a rock? Well, you know, men can get around that, get away with that if they're around other men. But, you know, if your woman looking at you, you now the standard of warfare is a lot more virtue, right? It's not like, well, I'm going to fly an airplane over their camp and drop a bomb on it. Nah, because what woman would accept that as an adequate form of warfare? You know what I'm saying? How could you go home like, yeah, I killed 1,000 enemies. How? I pushed the button. No, that's, you know. And so men in modern warfare has been able to escape honorable warfare because the women have been taken out of it. You know, women, their pain tolerance is way lower than ours. That means they could take a lot more pain than we can, you know. And because of that, yeah, they'll tend to get crazier and braver than we will when it comes to protecting the children, you know. And so that's why in history, some of the greatest, I wish I had the list, but some of the greatest military generals in history that's no longer in modern history books were women. I mean, ferocious, you know, as evidenced by the goddess Kali, because is any man over 27 knows, hell, 20, you know, hell have no fury like an angry woman, you know, and especially a woman whose child has been threatened, you know. There are no boundaries, you know, and so people understood that in the past, but because women were such a threat in old society, men found a way to try to regulate them and marginalize them, and that's why it's so much imbalance in the world. Men were like afraid of women, you know, and because they were afraid of them, you know, they did what they can to take them out of power. And so now we fight cowards wars, you know, and come back like tough guys. But in the old days, you had to really be a tough guy, you know, and it had to be really something worth fighting about, you know. And You imagine a woman president, or like they'll waits a war a lot longer than a man would. And when they do determine it's worth fighting over, you know, they'll be ferocious about it. But men are fickle. So you offend our ego, our pride. You know, we want something that we can't have that you have. That's good enough for us to declare war. You know. And so it's unfortunate.
You know, again, it just makes me think of the rites, you know, the passages that, you know, were installed and still installed in certain parts of the world that we no longer have access to, and practices that would prepare the warrior, you know what I'm saying, through that rite. So one, you know, drop in the ego, drop in the, you know, the fake bravado, you know, energy and dealing with, you know, your true warriorship, and, you know, how that's been removed. I know that on one of my presentations, I share, you know, a couple slides where I show, you know, young people, so, you know, affiliated on the streets, and, you know, you see them with their bags, you know, whatever they're holding in their little bag, in their little baggies there, whether it's a weapon of some sort, whether it's drugs, who knows, or a bag load of cash, you know, looking a certain way. They might have balaclavas on or ski masks, you know, looking intimidating, but I know who they are, you know, because I work with them. I know they're me, you know, they're a reflection of who we are. And but I'm also aware of just like the misdirection, you know, of where they direct that energy, and how 9 times out of 10 it's used amongst themselves, you know. But there is a place for warriorship, and, you know, that's what I'm fully aware of. And then within the presentation, I show a follow-up slide where you've got, you know, some young people, young boys from the continent. I think primarily they're from Sudan. Like, they got some black face paint on, they got their warrior marks and stuff, they got their sticks, they got their little baggies as well, and they look very warrior-like too. But we understand that they're going through a particular rite, a certain journey that allows them to know how to direct their energy. So that, you know, it's energy that we want to suppress or remove. It's just, where does it and how does it get channeled?